the competition, I think, brings out the best in everybody.
Sure.
So in life, it's like there's an accountability to yourself. There's an accountability to the moment of, when you're going out there to perform. But then the competition, you should really respect it because it brings out a level of focus in you that, you just can't find by yourself.
Yeah, no doubt.
So it's all about.
How do you find that you check that box of that competition? Because obviously you're not dropping back 7 steps anymore and ripping it.
Yeah.
How are you checking that box of staying in the competitive world?
To be honest, it's I hate when people say to be honest because they're like, oh, I've been lying the rest of the time. But I think I don't really have that level of competition anymore. Thank God. It's like that fight or flight every day for 23 years and then 5 years at Michigan, 4 years in high school. It takes a toll on you. And not that I love that moment of my life, but I also realize like there's other moments that don't have to be as competitive, So like even in my Fox broadcasting role, like I just want to do a great job and have fun and explain. I don't need to be, in my way, like competitive with anybody else. Like it is purely me versus me. And, my preparation, I'm good with that. If I can perform well on a broadcast for 3 hours on a Sunday, I really enjoy that. But like, I'm not comparing myself to, I probably did when I was playing Peyton Manning, when I was playing Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers and, Eli Manning. And, that was intense competition. I think for me now, just take a step back. I sleep a lot better at night. I'm not getting beat up all the time anymore. So it's like really an enjoyable part of my life.
Not as sore on Mondays.
Yeah, thank God. I mean, on the flights home are way more enjoyable as a broadcaster.
Sure, I bet.
You're not kicking yourself for every play, and I really respect the guys that are still down there in the arena. There's a battle, there's a fight. It's tough, man. It's all encompassing too, and it's like I think the thing I love about physical contact sports is if you're not prepared, you physically pay a price. So I think and obviously I love basketball, I love baseball, I love golf, but like there's a toughness associated with a combat sport that if you're not doing the work in advance, you physically will take the brunt of the lack of preparation.
Yeah.
So I think I really respect the sports that are physically demanding and require a physical level of preparation because you will pay the price yourself if you're not ready to go.
Love that. I absolutely love that. Speaking of big hits, I saw recently the 0-1 Clements job on you. Dude, he would get aggravated assault for that nowadays. Helmet went flying. Is that the biggest shot you ever took?
No, that was actually, it wasn't the biggest. I had plenty of other big ones. But that was my fault. I think whenever I try to bring that clip up, it's like, and I saw Ray Lewis on the sideline of a Baltimore game that I did last week. And I kind of miss the way that, there was an offense and defensive edge every week, and if you had a better defense and you could physically impose your will on the offense, you could win a game that way. And, Buffalo was like that when I first played them.
Mm-hmm.
They had a lot of good fit. London Fletcher played for them. Nate Clements played for them. They had a really talented defense. And you had to bring it. And if you didn't, they were going to knock your head off. And you know what? So what did that force me to do as a quarterback? Learn how to read coverages better.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm out of the pocket, slide earlier or throw the freaking ball away. But don't sit there and run down the field and pretend like it was flag football. And now that I see a lot of guys now, it is flag football for quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When they run out of the pocket, they feel like, well, they can't be touched. And then it really, I think it sets them back because it's not forcing them to play in the pocket and learn how to diagnose things and develop a real skill. Because I don't think running is a skill. I think running is a trait. You're not developing that. I think learning how to read coverages, diagnose defenses, come up with game plans, come up with better strategy, that to me is a skill. That's what Peyton Manning had. That's what Drew Brees had. And I think there's been a regression mentally of the game that when I watch, it's more trait. We value traits and not skill.
Sure.
So do you feel like that pendulum has swung too far the other way in the protection of the quarterbacks and how they're able to take advantage of acting like they're about to slide or go out of bounds and then make a move and try and pick up the first down?
I just think there was a great line in football that was the defense you force the defense to defend every blade of grass. And when you're a runner, for a quarterback now, the quarterback is protected more so than probably what I think, is right for what the defense is trying to do.
Yep.
Like they're not trying to give you an extra inch, but now the quarterback can take yards and the defenders have to go, okay, you can take those yards. But what if the Super Bowl, like 2014 for the Patriots and Seattle, comes down to 1 yard and you concede 1 yard? Well, we don't win the Super Bowl. So like every inch matters on the football field. And every yard matters because those inches add up to yards. But now we're not allowing the defense to defend every inch. We essentially have to back off with players. So there's a lot of different things like, rule changes, which have, I think taken away from some of the abilities for defenses to really limit offensive play. And, I say it a lot on broadcast for sure, but it's not the way the game should be played. I think defenses should be valued as much as offenses. It actually forces the offenses to be better. It actually makes the offensive quarterbacks better, because you can develop a higher level of performance by studying and working hard. And just like I had to outsmart Ray Lewis and Ed Reed, they forced me to do that rather than, I think, some of the things now, which is snap the ball, figure out what to do, and then try to run around and find an open receiver, which, by the way, isn't very effective. If you look at a lot of the stats, passing stats are way down. I mean, it's just, and again, I'm watching every week. I'm not looking at this surgical style of offense that I believe what the beauty of what the NFL is.
I love it. You said running is a skill, like a fellow 5.0 40 guy. I like that. That's pretty good. Our podcast obviously called Almost Athletes. You ever had a moment in your youth?
Is that rage bait with me right there?
Oh, no. I was more or less talking about me and Ty.
Oh, okay. I think you guys are good athletes.
Yeah.
Almost.
Well, almost.
Yeah.
All those Big Ten offers I talked about. I should have gone to Rutgers, man. But no, we call ourselves Almost Athletes. You ever had an almost athlete moment in your youth where it was like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this? Maybe your combine picture? With all due respect.
I looked good in the picture at the time.
I didn't say you look bad.
I was doing push-ups before.
You just looked like an almost athlete.
No,
that's
I did.
all.
I looked more. It wasn't a finest moment in my life. But again, that was internet era where you thought that was for
you didn't
NFL
have to worry about
scouts.
that.
And now literally, anyone who has an NFL feed around April comes up and that picture comes up and I want to kill the social media manager for the NFL, but that's okay. When was I almost an athlete? I don't know.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
good to know.
I wish I could say that. Mine, I'm like, well, which one do you want to choose from?
Maybe I was
year?
pretty naive over a period of my life.
What's your worst sport? What sport do you feel like you don't excel in or is not as good as the other
100-meter dash.
100-meter dash. Track and field?
Yeah, track and field.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
I would say
Floor
I'm pretty
routine.
good at, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good at basically all the hand-eye coordination stuff. I mean, I can hit a baseball out of a baseball park. I could throw a football. I can hit a golf ball 300 yards.
Surfing's one of your favorites now?
I'm not a great surfer, but I'd like to. I was actually texting my friend literally today. I want to be a better surfer.
Okay.
Just
where do you do that at?
It used to be Costa Rica where I'd surf a lot.
Yep.
But I haven't been there in a few years.
Yep.
But everyone does these wave pools now and stuff. So
a little easier to learn there.
Yeah, a lot easier to learn.